Guests first 2 hours and then replay last hour. And away we go. Tuesday edition of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I'm not taking a victory lap just yet. But I remember a certain host being mocked by his producer engineer, Brian McDonald, who's not working on the show tonight, when he predicted a Phillies win in 6 in this 2022 World Series. I remember it. Tonight's producer on the program doesn't look good for your Astros. Does not look good. Let's be honest. Look, what I said before the series started was completely rooted in, and I don't normally pick from a spot of emotion. I'm in a glass case of emotion. I don't typically pick from a place of emotion. I don't typically pick from a place that doesn't have some sort of fact behind it. But the mere observational fact coming into this series was that the Phillies were playing some of the best baseball. They were the hottest team at the right time. And I know people are going to say, but wait a minute. The Astros hadn't lost a single game. How could you say that? Houston was undefeated. First of all, they could have lost in 4, if not 3, against the Mariners. For anybody who watched that series, they were outplayed in 2 of the 3 games. That's first of all. And then they ran into a Yankee team that hadn't played well since the month of July, basically. So anybody saying how great the Astros were playing coming into this World Series, I can't believe they're losing, has not been paying attention. Because the Phillies, they got hot at the right time. I mean, my God, it was like batting practice against Lance McCullers tonight. BP! We'll come back, talk about it. NFL trade deadline talk, too. Let's get it started on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I'm not celebrating yet. No? Oh, I did. You know what? I've been laughing for the last 45, actually. You just haven't been tuned in for that part of the home show. Not at all. Heart of hearts, you knew the Yankees weren't beating the Astros. You had to think that. That was based on emotion. I'm in a glass case of emotion. The Astros are the Braves of the late 90s, let's be honest. That's who the Astros are. That's what they are. I mean, there's no getting around it. Great. So were the Braves, and they won 1. This thing might be over in 5. Yeah, the Braves were there a lot, too. Otis Nixon. It's all over. It's all over. Yep. Very. Bitter as you know what. Term. Life is like a box of chocolates. Life is like a box of chocolates. Long, long time ago, I can still remember. Oh, we're going to enjoy every minute of this tonight. Gonna enjoy every second of this. Hold on, I just blinked. Did the Phillies hit another home run? This is going to be fun tonight, especially with John Belmer, lifelong Astros fan, doing the show. Oh, I love it. I love it. This is great. Bryce Harper hitting bombs. Reese Hoskins hitting missiles into the left field seats. Oh, man, it doesn't get any better. Doesn't get any better. 1-800-224-2004. 800. You do realize, Belmer, producer, engineer extraordinaire on the show tonight, you do realize every state in the country except for one is rooting for the Phillies in this series. You know that, right? Okay. All right. No. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You do know that, though. Yeah. Okay. And I'm not in the state of Texas, so. Yep. Haters be hating. 800-224-2004. You want to tweet at the show, do it at the back page. Hit me up on Twitter any point during the show at the, you know it, back page. This hour, we will be joined by Justin Termini, hosts in afternoons 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM NBA Radio. Old colleague of mine from back in I can't believe he still works there. Can I say that? Does it sound bad? Does it sound hateful that he's still there after? I left that place 15 years ago and he's still there. It's crazy. I didn't know anybody stayed any place that long anymore. Anyway, JT's going to join me. Talk about. I wasn't planning to do an NBA spot tonight, but I woke up this morning and Steve Nash had been fired. By the time I rolled out of bed, Steve Nash had been fired. And by the way, that's not an indictment on what time I get out of bed. Before you say something, Belmer, I could hear you thinking over there, man, how late do you get out of bed? He was fired in the morning. It's a 3-hour time difference out here on the West Coast. By the time I get up, half the day is done for most of America. It's true. What time do you get up, Belmer? Yeah, all right, that's fair. 10 a.m. Slug. Justin Termini will join us coming up a little later on in the hour. Get some thoughts with him about 25 minutes from now on the firing of Steve Nash. What's it meant for the Nets tonight? I think they were winning last I checked. I once I get deep into show prep, the minutia of the, day-to-day games in the NBA kind of go by the wayside unless it's something really pressing that I need to sort of keep an eye on. Nets tonight, oh my God, they still lost. They were up like 9 in the third quarter. They lost to Chicago 108-99. Change your coach, change your luck. Maybe not. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on our live NBA betting game of the night. That's Minnesota and Phoenix. 7-4 T-Wolves on top of the Suns. We'll have a live bet to give you later in the show. I've been nailing all my NBA live bets. Just nailing them. The exception of like one over the last week and a half. We've just been on fire. We nailed our live bet in the NFL last night. We're just rolling right now. There's just no getting around it. The college football playoff. We have our first set of rankings for that. Bunch of people go into a room, no cameras allowed, no transparency, and then they come out and say, voila, here's what we have. This is what we've cooked up for you. It's great. What a joke. NFL trade deadline. I got to tell you, more interesting, and there were so many moves. This was the most active NFL trade deadline day that I could ever recall. And more than the moves that were made, I was surprised by the moves that weren't made. And you know where I'm going with this. The two teams that you would have expected to upgrade at the trade deadline, given the quarterbacks they have and the expiration date on said quarterbacks, did not do a single thing. And I don't know how you wake up tomorrow morning if you're Tom Brady in Tampa, if you're Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and think anything other than immense disappointment with what transpired on trade deadline day for your teams. Green Bay was reportedly in the mix for one Chase Claypool, who wound up moving from Pittsburgh to Chicago. Great move for the Bears. We'll talk about it later in the show. But ultimately, Chicago made a better offer in terms of compensation in the form of an early second-round draft pick, and Pittsburgh took him up on it. Claypool goes to Chicago. Detroit made moves, trading away Hawkinson. I mean, there was all sorts of activity. Just in that division alone, there was activity. Minnesota goes out and gets Hawkinson from Detroit, and in the process really bolsters one of the spots they needed help in, which was the tight end game. I think they were next to the bottom in the league in terms of tight end productivity. And now with Hawkinson, that will obviously improve. And by the way, a team that's 7-1. 6-1 or 7-1, whatever it is. They have one loss. And Green Bay and Tampa Bay did nothing. Absolutely nothing. With two quarterbacks that are essentially on their last legs, not in terms of their ability to play, but in terms of how much longer they're going to want to play. And quite frankly, after what they saw or didn't see happen on trade deadline day, those days may be a lot sooner than you think. I mean, look, the Packers have been derelict in their duties over the years in terms of wide receiver help for Aaron Rodgers. They have drafted at every position imaginable except the one that would benefit the Hall of Fame quarterback they have. And look, I could say what I want in terms of what I think of Aaron Rodgers personally. The fact is, the guy has never gotten the support from management in terms of roster upgrades throughout his entire career. And for Tom Brady, I mean, again, unless Gronk's walking through the door and Odell Beckham Jr. is going to sign with you in the next 5 minutes, I don't know what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were doing on trade deadline day. They didn't do anything to upgrade the running game. They're near the bottom of the league. They didn't do anything to upgrade the receiving game. Their receivers have been terrible. Julio Jones, he's on the TB12 program. Well, I ain't doing much for him. I don't understand a damn what Green Bay and Tampa Bay did today. But they went backwards in a conference where other teams, by doing nothing, they went backwards today. Because again, remember, for all the hoopla around, what's going on around the league, the mediocrity in the NFL this year, for all of the hoopla around that, I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a game out of first place in the NFC South. And they didn't do anything to make themselves better. And I listen to these guys on TV today. I'm not going to call people out by name. I do that enough. And as it is, I'm probably hated for it. So fine. But I watched these guys on ESPN today talking about how Tampa Bay's still going to win the division. Based on what? Through the first 8 games, this is what they are. They are 3-5, and through 8 games, they're averaging about 18 points a game. How on earth do you get from that through the first 8 games to being a team that I'm supposed to expect is going to win the NFC South, when right now they're tied with New Orleans, a game behind Atlanta, and only 1 game ahead of a 2-6 Carolina team? Well, because they play in the same division with those guys. Yes, they've played in that same division with them for the first 8 games of this year. And through 8 games, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-5 and have lost 3 in a row. And it easily could have been 4 in a row because they should have lost to Atlanta. I will stick to my guns on that about a month ago. And Green Bay, it just makes you wonder if they've just decided to give up on this season and that they didn't want to just give up draft picks because they felt maybe adding 1 player wasn't going to be enough to a team that's 4 games behind the Vikings on the loss side through the first 8 weeks, is tied with lowly Chicago, who actually upgraded today. And even when you start looking at the wild card race, in the NFC right now, there's going to be 3 teams coming out of the NFC East. Make no mistake about it. The Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants are all going to be in the playoffs, which leaves 1 wild card spot for the NFC North, NFC South, or NFC West. And I think Packers management has made the determination it's not going to be us. And I have said this before, and I will say it again. I don't know if it's week 10, if it's week 12, if the team is 5-7, if the team is, 4-7 or 4-8. Jordan Love's going to be the starting quarterback before this season is done. Count on it. Book it. Because at some point, they're putting Aaron Rodgers on the bench. There's no point to this. If your future is Jordan Love and that's the guy that's going to replace Aaron Rodgers at some point, at some point this season, you've got to start finding out what he is. What better time to do it when your season's basically a wrap anyway? What surprised you at the trade deadline? What didn't surprise you? 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You could tweet at us at The Back Page. Hit me up on Twitter with your thoughts at The Back Page. Justin Termini from SiriusXM NBA Radio coming up in about 16 minutes. We'll update you on what's going on in the World Series. Have they hit double digits yet? Come on, Belmer. Have they hit double digits? Are the Phillies wiping the floor with them? They're already up a touchdown. We're back with more of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Wake up call. Wake up call. Man, speak for yourselves, clowns. Yes, I am, Mr. Belmer. Yes, I am. Got to be hanging out with you all. SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Every time we come back from a break, because I'm in California and John Belmer's in Houston, he has to tell me when my microphone is officially on, so I'm not like saying something or shouting obscenities into the microphone. And he always says, hot. You're hot. Something like that. And I just made it clear to him that, yes, I am. Just letting you know. Well, yep, it's true. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. If you want to tweet at the show, do it. Do it. Do it. At the back page. 7-0. Phillies on top of the Astros as they play in the, what is it, 7th inning now? 8th inning? Doesn't really matter. Game's over. Let's just go to game 4 now, baby. Lance McCullers got shelled. Eesh. Not a good night for Houston fans. Are they having one of those like watch parties at Minute Maid? Are they? Yeah, that must be a somber occasion. must be like a funeral in that joint. Oy vey. No, that stadium's been well. I'd like to say it's been empty, but they're actually playing the MLS semifinals, conference finals, or New York FC is NYFC is in the conference finals. I think. Can I tell you something? I've actually been to a Houston Dynamo game. True story. Not compared to the one I went to an MLS match in Portland, and that was way more fun. Yeah. I've been to one in Portland, and they are nuts, dude. Those fans are into it. Hey, Jock MKT, if you haven't signed up for it yet, go and check it out. They offer live daily markets for sports that let you buy and sell shares of athletes in real time with other users, all for real money. And each share is a guaranteed payout at the end of the night, unless you're John Belmer and you pick crappy players. Bid on shares before the games in our IPO phase and trade shares live with the games while they're happening. All shares with a guaranteed payout. Currently live in 36 states with more to come for NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, and NASCAR. Head over to the Jock MKT app or go to jockmkt.com and deposit with my promo code CASHIN, one word, CASHIN, to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Your first market will also be risk-free, with losses refunded up to $100. That's jockmkt.com or the Jock MKT app. Deposit with my promo code CASHIN. Receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. If you had Bryce Harper tonight, you'd be doing well. Just saying. That's the guy you wanted tonight. 2-run home run in the first inning. Set the tone. I was just dipping into my guacamole at the Mexican restaurant I was having here in town. Boom. Bryce hits a home run. We'll be joined by Justin Termini coming up in about 9 minutes. Get some thoughts with him. I can't wait to hear his comments because I didn't get to catch his show today on Sirius XM. what he makes of the Steve Nash firing. I plan to talk about it a bit in the next hour, but we'll get into it with Justin Termini, who hosts afternoons over on SiriusXM NBA Radio. That coming up just about 10 minutes from now here on the show. The Tuesday night back half of the doubleheader that TNT has is Phoenix 23, Minnesota 12. Suns have come out playing pretty well early going this year. 23-12 Suns on top of the T-Wolves. Right now, T-Wolves plus 310 on the money line, plus 8.5 for the game spread on the live betting, if that sort of thing interests you, and it should. Over 211.5, actually now over 213.5 on the total. And if I had to lean right now, I'd probably be leaning towards an under bet there. That is not an official pick, but if I were, I would be leaning toward. I mean, they're at 37 points with a minute to go in the first quarter. This is obviously going to be a relatively low-scoring affair, and I say relatively in the context of what is taking place around the NBA this year, where scoring averages for teams are about 115 points a game. Teams are averaging 115 points a game, which makes it all the more remarkable tonight that a team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that a team with those two guys scored just 99 points tonight. I mean, I'm telling you. We're going to get into it with Justin, and I'll talk about it next hour, about this whole Ime Udoka potentially taking over as head coach. Why would he even want this job? Why would any self-respecting coach want to take over the dumpster fire that is the Brooklyn Nets? Unless you've got some sort of God complex that you're the guy that says, I can fix anything. Why would you want to be involved with this? By the way, Kyrie tonight, the night that Steve Nash gets, the day that Steve Nash gets canned, that night, what did Kyrie Irving do? 2 of 12, 4 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 turnovers in 33 minutes. It's time to blow this thing up if you're Joe Tsai. I don't bring in Ime Udoka unless I'm stripping the thing bare and letting him rebuild it in his image. And I'm not even crazy about the idea of Ime Udoka getting another shot in the NBA right now, given what transpired that led to his ouster in Boston. But again, I'll get into that in the next hour. Kevin Durant tonight, 32 to lead the Nets in defeat, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. But again, 6 turnovers not helping the cause. Chicago to 4-4, Brooklyn to 2-6. Again, it's early. It's a long season. I get it. But if you're Joe Tsai and management and Sean Marks and all these guys in Brooklyn, I don't know what you're hanging on to right now as a hope or a catalyst for change. Let's be honest. The Steve Nash thing was as much a resignation from him, understanding that this thing couldn't be fixed, as it was a firing from the Nets, who are just trying to put lipstick on a pig right now. It just, I don't see how it's fixable. I think at some point, if you're the Nets, you've got to acknowledge that what you wanted to try to build here with a super team that was originally Harden and originally Durant and originally Kyrie, that it never really came to fruition. The three of them were never really on the court together between COVID and then last year and Durant being hurt and all these different things. They were never able to bring it to fruition. You've just got to pack it up at some point and make a decision to move on as an organization. And yeah, that's going to mean in New York, in one of the biggest markets in the NBA, you're going to suck for a few years. But you're almost better off doing that at this point than continuing to let Kevin Durant run your franchise into the ground with Kyrie Irving out there promoting anti-Semitic books. I mean, let's be honest about it at this point. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at me at the back page. Justin Termini from SiriusXM NBA Radio joins us on the other side as we continue with this Tuesday edition of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. We continue on this Monday edition of the show. Me too. Good to have you with us. Tuesday edition of the show. Big story of the day. I hadn't even gotten out from under the covers yet out here on the West Coast. I literally had just rolled out of bed to go take my dog to the park. And I get a note on my phone. Steve Nash let go as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. What a mess. Oy vey. Let's talk. I wasn't planning on doing any NBA tonight. I did a ton last night, but I figure let's do it again tonight. Let's run it back, as they say. Let's bring in Justin Turman. He does a terrific job over at Sirius XM NBA Radio. My former colleague at my old stomping grounds. He was the smart one that stayed there for the last. What have you been there? 18 years now? 19 years?
It's something like 17, 18, 19 years. And the ones that took the years off my life, the hardest ones are the ones I had to spend sitting next to you when I'm in the office. After you got gone, the last 15 years have been a breeze, but the first 4 or 5 when I was working with you, those were hellacious.
Oh, I figured Steve Cohen would have made you the whipping boy after I left because I had that position when I was there. So I figured, you would have been the next one he beat up on.
No, I was able to escape that, fortunately. We just continued to whip up on you and make fun of you, even in your absence. So.
Fair enough. Listen, I mean, what was your reaction? I guess none of us could be surprised that Steve Nash was let go. I think we all saw the writing was kind of on the wall with this way this team got off to this start. Kevin Durant called for his head in the offseason. What was your reaction when you woke up and saw the news?
Well, first of all, we have a completely different lifestyle. I'm out on the West Coast as well. I had been up for about 5 or 6 hours because I get up at 5 a.m. So I was also taking the dog out for a walk, and I'm not even kidding, like right when that news broke. But I had already done all my prep for the day. Like I was completely done. And then I get a text from my producer, hey, did you see what happened with Steve Nash? And I've got to scrap the entire show. So I was ticked off because like I'm getting sick of it. Like think about what the Brooklyn Nets have been here, Jay. You've got like last year, it's nothing about basketball, right? It's all about James Harden being out of shape, the trade for Ben Simmons, the vaccine with Kyrie Irving. Then we get to the offseason, and is Kyrie going to come back? Is he going to opt out? Is he going to go to the Lakers? You got the crap with Kevin Durant. He wants to be traded. He wants Nash and Sean Marks fired. We start the season. It's the anti-Semitic comments from Kyrie Irving. Then we wake up today, and we can finally put that stuff in our, in our rearview mirror, you would hope. And then we wake up to the news that Steve Nash is out. So it's like one thing after another. And then this organization is so incompetent that not only they're going to prolong the story, right? They're going to prolong the controversy by apparently going out and hiring Ime Udoka. That's not like a hire that you can just kind of like, oh, we've hired this guy, it's time to move on. There's going to be a new set of questions because of what took place with him in Boston. So it's just sickening that the basketball world's trying to start the season off here, and it's got to be clouded by this organization in Brooklyn.
At this point, is Kevin Durant out of excuses now? I mean, is that sort of the position we take as people covering the game? Is that, look, this is what you wanted. You clearly didn't think that Steve Nash was the answer in terms of head coach. So now you're kind of out of excuses. Or can he say, well, Sean Marks has to go too?
No, well, 100%, because think about the guys that have been, and this is what he is. Like, he is a coach killer. That's now on his ledger, and it should have been after Kenny Atkinson was gone.
Well, it's Kyrie's too, though. I mean, Kyrie's had six coaches in 7 years, too.
Exactly. No, they both are, but the difference is, like, Kyrie's irrelevant 50 years from now, right? Like, maybe he'll be on some YouTube videos because he dribbles fancy, but, like, Durant's an all-time great. He's the guy that you're supposed to be mentioning in the, along the lines of, I don't want to say like as high as Magic, Bird, Jordan, LeBron, etc., but he's in that next group, like the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Kobe Bryants. Like, he's supposed to be that good. His name lives on forever. And if, like, for example, if we're going to call Magic a coach killer for what he did with Paul Westhead, well, guess what? Then he gets Pat Riley and Magic wins a championship. If you want to call Shaq a coach killer because he got rid of Stan Van Gundy, how does he respond to that? All right, he goes out and he wins an NBA championship. So LeBron, he kills David Blatt. All right, what does he respond with? An NBA championship. Those guys got their way. We didn't like the fact they got their coaches fired, but they at least responded. Now it's Durant's turn. Okay, you got your way, KD. Now respond.
Spending some time with Justin Termini, host over on SiriusXM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Who are you hosting with? Is that Eddie Johnson?
Eddie Johnson, yes, the former Sun and the Kansas City King and the Seattle Supersonic and the Houston Rockets. Yeah, that's Eddie Johnson.
He was a sixth man of the year a bunch of times, wasn't he? He was like one of those. Yeah, he was one of the best sixth men, though. I mean, he was a great guy off the bench. Eddie Johnson was. Justin, I mean, take it to Kyrie though here for a second, and let's just assume it's Ime Udoka who comes in and is the next head coach of this team is expected in the coming hours. Kyrie doesn't play defense, and I don't know how that's going to fly with Ime Udoka, who one of the first things he's got to do is come in here and help this team defensively. Is it just a matter of time before Kyrie winds up somewhere else, or can they make this work?
Well, I think eventually at the end of the season, they're going to want him out just based off all the behavior issues. I don't think that organization is going to want to have anything to do with him. And I'm hard-pressed to find where maybe he does end up. Maybe it is the Los Angeles Lakers. I know there was flirtations with him before. But like Ime Udoka goes in and everybody's like, well, he fixed the defense in Boston. Think of the personnel you had on that team, though. Like, you had Robert Williams there. You had Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford. All those guys are great defenders. You don't have that in Brooklyn. None of these guys are great defenders outside Ben Simmons, and he's got to fix his head, his back, and his knee first before he can focus on, like, getting his actual act together on the floor. Kyrie's a non-defender. And they also don't have size. Like, you go through the Eastern Conference, you've got Giannis and Brook Lopez who are in Milwaukee. You've got Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. Not to mention, Robert Williams, he comes back and the success they had last year. Bam Adebayo. Like, you get to the finals, it's DeAndre Ayton, it's Nikola Jokic, it's Anthony Davis, even though the Lakers aren't going to get there. But the point is like, you need size in the league today. They got Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe. That's not Steve Nash's fault. That's the front office's fault for not shoring up positions like that. So whether you have Udoka, Steve Nash, Red Auerbach, or Phil Jackson as your head coach, it's not going to rectify that.
You wonder if, and this is just a philosophical question, I guess, but you wonder if an experience like this for Steve Nash, his first head coaching job, you wonder if something like this sort of jades him on the idea of even wanting to coach again, having gone through an experience like this, that this is what the coaching in the modern day NBA is. If he'd even want to coach again after something like this.
Yeah, I brought that up first segment today in regards to, like, first of all, he's got to be, like, you can't tell me that he's not smiling today, that he's removed from this situation. He doesn't need this. Like, there's been coaches that even Udoka needs it to, I guess, make his living. He played in the NBA, wasn't making the type of money that Steve Nash did, but there's certain guys that don't need it. Steve Nash doesn't need to be bossed around by guys that he's more talented than. Right. So I can't imagine that, and again, you have to understand that this is not every organization. Look at what Will Hardy's doing out in Utah right now. Like, it seems like he's got a great group of guys that are playing for each other, playing team basketball, great chemistry, listening to whatever he's saying. So there are organizations where you do have that. And hopefully Steve Nash realizes that if he wants to get back into coaching. But yeah, I mean, if he thinks that every organization around the sport is like what he's dealing with in Brooklyn, I can't see any way that he would ever want to coach again.
Justin Termini, host over on SiriusXM NBA Radio, joining us here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I got to ask you, is it surprising to you, Joe Tsai and the Nets put out a statement. It took a while, but the NBA put out a statement today. Are you surprised more players around the league haven't spoken out on the Kyrie Irving situation?
No, and I talked about that as well today. They're hypocrites. I mean, if it's a fan that says something and, like, Russell Westbrook, a fan in Utah says something, they'll pounce on him. And then every player around the league will do the same. If it's Robert Sarver, if it's Donald Sterling, if it's a member of the general public, LeBron's going to Elon Musk the other day about people's language on Twitter. So they'll attack you. They'll attack the fan base, the common person. But if it's somebody within the NBA, if it's one of their brethren, they're basically allowed to do whatever they want.
That's surprising to me. I'm surprised that, and I know the idea that he may wind up in the Lakers with LeBron maybe is keeping his response a bit more tepid, but I'm surprised that some of the leadership guys in this league, the faces of this league, who are watching Kyrie Irving sully that reputation of the league as being a more progressive league, a league that has tended to go more in the direction of trying to be more outspoken on social issues. I get it. There's not a ton of white Jewish guys playing the point guard position in the league. But it's kind of surprising to me that more guys haven't spoken up on this.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't serve you, then you're not gonna speak up on it, I guess, right? If you risk to lose something, maybe a friendship with a Kyrie, a relationship, if it's money via shoes, we know that there's different people that they're taking money from in that regard that might have connections that are a little bit murky. Then guys aren't going to say anything. So I'm not shocked by it. I'm disappointed, but I'm not shocked at all.
What's through the first couple of weeks of the season? I try not to go too crazy about and overreact to anything I see. What do you think is more likely to be fixed first, if it could be fixed this season? Is it the Lakers or the Nets?
I think it's the Nets. Just because you got the Russell Westbrook issue that's got to be rectified in LA, which is a problem, even though it looks a little bit better with him off the bench the last couple of days. And then, I probably have less confidence in the health of Anthony Davis than I do of anybody in Brooklyn, even though Kyrie Irving misses a ton of games. And Ben Simmons is already missing a couple of games here with the knee. But I think the combination of probably the age, the health, and Russell Westbrook, at least Kyrie, even though he was horrible tonight, at least he still is in his prime and still can, play at a high level. Same thing with Durant when they're focused, at least. I'm not sure even a focused Russell Westbrook can still play at a high level and play winning basketball.
With Utah and San Antonio off to fast starts when most people thought they'd be lottery teams, going into the offseason. I mean, man, even Greg Popovich at one point said, "Hey, we're not winning much this year." Which to you, based on what you've seen through the first 7 or 8 games, has the potential to have some staying power and actually be good?
Well, I think it's got to be Utah just because they actually have the talent, right? And what Popovich done is amazing. And Utah shouldn't be 6-2, but they've also beat some good opponents, which is a good sign. Lauri Markkanen looks like he's for real. You've got Mike Conley, who's like a really good player, even though he's a little bit past his prime. Jordan Clarkson is a good player. So I think they actually have like legitimate NBA talent on their team. I think that there's a lot of guys on San Antonio outside of maybe Keldon Johnson who really aren't like NBA quality players, or at least anywhere close to starters. So there's far more talent on Utah.
Reason to be concerned with the Clippers with the slow start, or is it them just sort of trying to ease some guys in?
No, there's reason to be concerned. Now I picked them to go to the NBA Finals just because of the amount of talent. But if they're not going to play together and get the continuity, then they won't have a chance come playoff time. And it was the same thing I said the last couple of years about Brooklyn. If you're not going to take the regular season seriously, then you're not going to be able to succeed in the postseason. And you probably should be worried about Kawhi. I mean, he's about to miss 6 consecutive games by the time this stretch is over. And I think it's going to be like 7 out of 9 games that he's going to miss after having a year and a half off. So if he's not able to play right now, what makes you think he's going to be able to play like 40 minutes a night in the postseason when they really need him in some hotly tested games against the Nuggets or the Suns or the Warriors? So yeah, there's definite reason to be concerned.
Warriors are playing no defense right now. Reason to worry?
I mean, it's not great, but I also think that there's a lot of young guys on the roster that they're giving minutes to, and it'll come around. I think maybe the bigger concern is that Klay Thompson. I thought he would look better this year after getting his legs underneath him. He does not look good, and they're going to need that second guy for Steph, because I felt last year they got away with it a little bit in that his second star was probably Andrew Wiggins. If you go throughout NBA history, no offense to Wiggins, but he doesn't necessarily align with, I would say, 95% of the second best players that have won NBA championships. And now people are healthy out west, right? In the Denver Nuggets, the Pelicans with Zion back, the Clippers supposedly, if Kawhi can ever find his groove. So that's what I would be concerned about is that everybody in the West kind of got better, and maybe they didn't.
Now that I know we both live on the West Coast, I don't know if that's good news for you, the fact that you live that close to me. We're going to have to plan a doggy date, okay? Doggy date, something like that.
Is it still the same? I'm trying to think of the name while I'm talking. A little bulldog.
No, the bulldog died years ago, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
But that's okay. But I have a puggle now, and his name is Dookie. And he literally is my companion everywhere I go. So the next time I see you, hopefully out in L.A., you'll get to meet the Dukester.
Nice. Well, I've got Zuzu here, and she's the Australian Labradoodle, and I'm throwing the ball to her right now as we speak. So,
listen, Justin, it was good to catch up, my friend. Let's do it again soon.
All right, Paige. Sounds good, buddy. Thanks for giving me the ring.
Absolutely. Justin Termini, Sirius XM NBA Radio. We'll wrap up the hour next. Yeah, he's about my age. Might be a little younger than me. We used to work side by side at Sirius for a good 4 or 5 years. And and we both used to get beat up on by management so bad. Oh yeah. Exciting and new. Come aboard. We're expecting you and love. Exciting indeed. Yes, you are. Sure. Time for another hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. Don't forget you can watch us too. You can watch us on Twitch. Jason Page 77 is the name of my channel there. Yeah, it's really creative. Jason Page 77, so now you know what year I was born. figure out the rest from there. Watch us over on Twitch, Jason Page 77. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Feel free to tweet at me as well at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Phillies lead the Astros 7-0, top of the ninth inning in Cheesesteak Land. Astros about to go down 2-1 in this series. You may recall yours truly originally on the show last, Monday? I picked the Phillies in 5, to which our engineer, producer, Brian McDonald, who was working the show that night, scoffed and said, no, you can't pick the Phillies in 5. That's unreasonable. It's crazy. It's preposterous. It can't happen. So I revised my pick just to appease him at 6, and it turns out 5 might be right. Eesh. Could be the Phillies in 5 the way this thing's going. Just saying. Just saying, Astros fans. Sorry. So anyway, Phillies lead at 7-0 as they go to the ninth inning in that game, and we'll see what the what Game 4 holds in store for that series. Everything was just pushed back a day. They'll still have an off day in the series on Friday. So no baseball on Friday, and then the series will resume if it makes it back to Houston for Game 6 on Saturday. This hour of the program, we'll get a little bit more into the Steve Nash firing. I've got some things I want to say about it. I will do that coming up here in a couple minutes. How many people watched the Sunday morning game from Wembley Stadium between the Broncos and Jaguars? Well, it was a record number for ESPN+. Unfortunately, we don't know what that record number is because they don't want to tell us. Jason Cole, NFL writer at Outkick, will join us later in the hour as well. Let's do it. Another hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio right now. Did you see this tweet from Brandon Cooks? He knows where the bodies are buried, apparently. Wow. Oh boy. I wonder what he has. Yeah, that's what you would think, right? asking price their asking price might have been too high. Whoa! Yeah. "12 minutes past the hour, the cash in with yours truly, Jason Page. Jason Cole, NFL writer at Outkick.com. He's a Hall of Fame selector. He'll join us in 28 minutes, talk about what did and did not happen at the NFL trade deadline. I was just talking about with our producer engineer extraordinaire, John Belmer, before during the break, before we came back from the break, about this bizarre tweet from Brandon Cooks that went out after he wasn't dealt by the trade deadline today. By the way, my sympathy quotient is nil for a guy who signed a 2-year extension worth $39.8 million with the Texans that runs through the 2024 season. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for you, dude. You're getting paid $40 million for the next 2 years. Shut up. Play football. You wanted to be traded. You're on a crappy team. Oh, here's the consolation prize. $40 million. Just, again, it epitomizes the modern day athlete. Stories like that. And then he goes out and basically puts out this cryptic tweet threatening the organization that, basically, I know where all the bodies are buried. He tweets, "Don't take a man's kindness for granted. Covered for the lies for too long, those days are done. Crossed the line with my playing with my career." Can you imagine? I mean, I'd plant his ass on the bench. That's what I would do. Great, you got something. Go ahead. See who wants you after you go and spill the beans on what's been going on in-house here. I mean, see how many teams want to bring that guy into the fold. And look, maybe somebody will. Here's part of the problem. Brandon Cooks, who was going to want to pick up the $18 million he's owed for next year? If Houston had jumped in and said, hey, we're going to pick up a significant portion of that, maybe it would have been a different story. Cowboys supposedly wanted him, but they were talking about a deal, couldn't get it done. So you're stuck in Houston making $40 million over the last 2 years of your deal. Boo friggity who. By the way, 354 yards on 32 catches with just one touchdown this season. Hasn't broken 100 yards in a single game. The numbers on Brandon Cooks. All right, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. It's over in Philadelphia. The Phillies have a 2-1 World Series lead, beat the Astros 7-0. Game 4 tomorrow night, 8:04 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. And we'll see how the Astros rebound. They rebounded well after the tough loss in Game 1. Impressive win in Game 2. Now the extra day off, and they get beat up in Game 3. Let's see what happens in Game 4. Some thoughts on the Steve Nash firing. I wanted to let Justin Termini sort of express his feelings on it in the last hour, and that's what we do when we bring on a guest. I'll let them provide the commentary and insight. I've got 3 hours a night to do it. I'll let the guests do it for the time that I have them on. I'd rather let you hear what they have to say than me blather on. But the Steve Nash firing, very simply, is putting lipstick on a pig for this organization. A lot of coaches have X's and O's guys. They have those guys on the bench. Steve Nash was never going to be an X's and O's guy. So if you're going to get on the X's and O's of what's wrong with the Nets, the play's being called or blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's any of that. You want to say he couldn't get these guys to play defense? Couldn't get these guys to buy in, so to speak? Well, we'll let Sean Marks, who runs the Brooklyn Nets from an organizational standpoint explain what he's thinking.
He's aware of, hey, they're not responding to me right now, or that was not the performance I needed to see out there, and so forth. So we were open with our dialogue, always have been, and so over the course of the last week, 10 days, we've just been talking, and I think it came to a head.
Players aren't responding. I love how that's I love how that's the fault of the coach. You got guys, I don't know what the Brooklyn Nets payroll is. I'd have to look it up. But the Brooklyn Nets are one of the highest payroll teams probably in the NBA. How about, let's see, $123 million this year? Is that right? $187 million? I don't know, something like that. I mean, they've got an obscene payroll. Obviously, with the likes of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons. $189 million. Okay, I was right the first time. If that collection of players making that much money cannot get motivated to play, whether it's on the defensive end, whether it's on the offensive end, they're not responding, whatever it may be, that's not on a coach. Guys should be able to motivate themselves at this level. Talking about the highest level of professional basketball. Sean Marks can say this all he wants. I don't believe him.
Well, there was zero input from any of the players on this. I think this was a decision that we didn't need that. Steve and I didn't need that. Obviously, I've talked to Joe about this, but the players were not consulted. They were told ahead of time that this was the direction we were going to today. But I don't think we needed that that input right now. Yeah.
Because Kevin Durant in the offseason saying, fire Sean Marks and Steve Nash. That had nothing to do with what happened today. Nothing to do with it at all. Again, NBA teams playing you for fools. You want to believe it, that's on you. So the Nets decide to cut loose Steve Nash. Oh, they don't play defense. Well, nobody in this league plays defense for the first 42 minutes of a game. It's like the All-Star game. People run up and down the floor, score a bunch of points, and then in the final 6 minutes, some teams start to play defense. And those are the ones that generally wind up doing well in the playoffs. But here's what gets me. And it's what I cannot, it's the part of this whole thing I can't understand. Hiring Ime Udoka. If you believe everything being reported, the Nets are going to hire the disgraced Celtics head coach who is currently under an indefinite suspension by the team. And reportedly, the Celtics don't have any problem letting Ime Udoka go. A couple of things about this. On a team that already lacks accountability and has proven to have guys on the roster who make poor decisions, who have poor judgment. Bad judgment. This makes no sense to me. You're going to bring in a guy who supposedly just got effectively canned by the Celtics organization for having an inappropriate relationship with somebody in the organization against the policy of the organization. And if you want to say, well, consensual relationship, two adults. Again, this is supposed to be the guy leading men, in some cases rather young men, as the head of the playing portion of the franchise. And now you're going to take that guy, if you're the Nets, this is such a Nets thing to do, and reward him with the head coaching job of one of the most high payroll basketball teams in the league, with a future Hall of Famer on the roster, and a couple of all-stars or an all-star or two, and you're going to reward this guy for that bad judgment by giving him the reins of a Nets team that's an absolute train wreck right now. Oh, yeah, this is going to end well. Say it out loud. When you just say it out loud what I just said, it suddenly becomes more remarkable that this is what's going to actually transpire in Brooklyn. That's why they're the Brooklyn Nets. There's certain franchises that are what they are for a reason, right? The New York Jets for many years. The Knicks for many years. The New York Mets for many years. And I just happen to be mentioning New York teams because there's enough of them there that you can kind of pick on why they haven't been good for a long time. You can just go around and around and around throughout the history of sports and just find certain franchises, oh, they're snake bit. Oh, it's just not going well for them. No, they're poorly run. And Joe Tsai might have the best intentions, and I give him credit for speaking out on the Kyrie Irving anti-Semitism and all that stuff. But if he thinks it's a good look for his team to bring in Ime Udoka after the Celtics just basically told you this guy broke our rules and it was so bad we had to suspend him for the entire season, and you as Brooklyn says, man, that's the guy we got to get. Of all the potential coaching candidates that are out there, that's the one you're going to get? And by the way, Ime Udoka likes to coach defense. Good luck getting Kyrie Irving making $36.9 million this season and has zero inclination, zero desire to play defense. Good luck getting that guy to D up on the other end of the floor. He has interest in one thing. It's the and one mixtape that he likes to make on the offensive side of the floor. That's it. Kevin Durant, he'll D up when it matters. You know Ben Simmons will. But Kyrie Irving, he's not going to buy in. And if you don't have buy-in from everybody, you don't have buy-in from anybody. Because Kyrie has to be a part of the solution in order for this version of the Nets to work. And I don't think there's anybody that believes he's more likely a part of the solution. He's much more likely a part of the problem. And I don't care what team you're a fan of. You know, maybe you're not happy about Oklahoma City and some of the issues they had. And maybe you're not happy to be a Jazz fan. They got rid of everybody on the franchise, and I know they're off to a good start, but people expect it to be kind of a tough year for them. I don't care what team you're a fan of. Just be glad that on November 1st, 2022, you're not a fan of the Brooklyn Nets. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. It was the most watched game for ESPN Plus in their history on Sunday morning at Wembley Stadium, the Jaguars and the Broncos. Then why won't they tell us how many people watched? That's next on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Imagineering the same spot in back-to-back breaks. Way great. Da 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 da. Really? Are you doing this as a cruel joke? Come on, Belmer. You. The three spots in a row are the radio connection. It's your fault. You did it. You did it. You did it. No, I fixed it now. Yeah, it might still say it on Twitter because unless I stop the feed on there, it won't fix. Yeah. It's fixed on everything else. This is better. God. I had some good stuff on the show last night. If you're looking for promos. Yeah. Did the beat goes on and on and on and on. SportsMap Radio, the cash in. I am Jason. Game 4 tomorrow night, Houston and Philadelphia in Cheesesteak Land. The early line with Christian Javier against Aaron Nola, the expected pitching matchup there. It will be the Astro. It's amazing. It's basically a pick 'em. Astros are minus 104 on the money line. Phillies are minus 112. 7.5 is the total. What do you think? They bounce back tomorrow, Belmer? I said, what do you think? The Astros bounce back tomorrow? Okay. The arrogance of Astro fans. You'd think they'd won the World Series every year for like the last 4 or 5 years. Gosh. It's all right. It's nothing wrong with being like the Braves of the late 90s, and that's basically what this organization is at the risk of becoming. They'll be the Braves of this generation. Team that gets to the World Series a ton of can't win. You know, I feel bad for the most in it is Dusty Baker. A baseball lifer, 50 years in the game, and a lot of people may not be rooting for the Astros, but I guarantee you there's a lot of people around baseball that are rooting for Dusty Baker to win a World Series. A lot of people. And Dusty won't really say as much as it means to him, but you know it means a lot. And that would be the one reason I would root for the Astros, would be the possibility of Dusty being able to win his first World Series after so many heartaches and so many attempts. All right. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Jason Cole from Outkick.com, Hall of Fame selector, does a great job on the NFL. He'll join us in 10 minutes. So, if you had a TV network, and let's just say it was having an NFL game on, and let's just say that NFL game on Sunday morning was the only NFL game, it was an exclusive to your network, and it did enormous ratings. Tons of people watched. If you were that network, wouldn't you want to tell people how many people watched your game? You would be, unless your name is ESPN. Sunday morning, it was Broncos-Jaguars in London at Wembley Stadium. Only game in town was ESPN+. On Tuesday, ESPN... they had a proclamation to make. They said it was the most viewed event ever on their subscription streaming service. So tell us how many people watch? Oh my God, I can't wait. This number must be huge. And then ESPN said, we're not going to tell you how many people watched. That would be like me coming on the show today and saying, we are the most listened to sports radio show from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And our show last night, oh my God, it did huge numbers. You should hear how many numbers it did. Well, how many numbers did? How many people watch? How many people listen? I'm not going to tell you. Nope. Here's from the actual ESPN statement. On Sunday, the first ever exclusive NFL game on ESPN Plus, the Broncos' 21-17 comeback win over the Jacksonville Jaguars from Wembley Stadium in London became the most viewed event ever on the industry-leading streaming service. No numbers. I mean, it's not difficult to put one and one together. That means, like, before that, the most watched thing on ESPN Plus was probably a UFC event with, 70,000 people watching. It means nobody was watching ESPN Plus prior to Broncos Jaguars. Which, if you're going to put out a statement like that, why put out a statement at all? I mean, if you're the NFL, why even bother putting out, if you're ESPN Plus, why bother putting out a statement? To tell everybody that a record number of people watched your network, but you're not going to tell us how many that was. It's just great. It's propaganda. I don't know how and look, I mean, you want to take it seriously. You want to take that network seriously. You know, when I watch that network today, and they are just all blowing rays of sunshine up the butt of Tom Brady about how the Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South. You know, all I could think to myself, and again, I don't want to say I'm thinking at a higher level because that's kind of an arrogant way to say it to the audience. I'm thinking at a different level, having worked in the media industry for more than half my life, much more than half my life. And the thing that comes to mind for me when I hear them talk that way about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and they're going to win the NFC South, it's the fact that they had the big Tom Brady documentary on for several weeks, a year or so ago, talking about all Tom Brady's, championships and his time in the Patriots organization. And all I think to myself is, are they doing this just to appease Tom Brady? Are they doing this as a favor for Tom Brady, trying to make him sound better, trying to make his team sound better? Because I can't take you seriously when you're telling me a record number of people watched your game on ESPN Plus, and then you can't even tell me how many people that is. How am I supposed to take you seriously as a media organization? The only thing that matters, and I hate to say this, I hate to be this simplistic, the only thing that matters in the industry ESPN is in is how many people are watching. That's it. Not a damn thing matters. Doesn't matter how good your I hate to say it. I used to think, content was king. All that mattered was what came out of the speakers. No, it's not. All that matters is how many people were watching. Or in my case, working in radio, how many people are listening. That's it. That's all that matters. How many people are watching? A record number of people is a relative number if your record prior to that was 17 people watching, cornhole on ESPN Plus. It's a relative number. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Jason Cole's going to join us coming up in a couple of minutes. NFL writer, Outkick.com. We'll get some thoughts with him. Hall of Fame selector. I want to see what he has to say about NFL trade deadline day, what happened, what didn't happen. Lord knows there's plenty to get to. Does Brandon Cooks really have the goods on the Texans organization? See what he knows about that. I don't know if he's even going to want to talk about it. Green Bay and Tampa Bay not making any moves. Chase Claypool going to the Bears, giving a target for Justin Fields to actually throw the football to. We'll talk about all that and more with Jason Cole, NFL writer at Outkick.com, as we continue on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I love dialing up the guests on my end. I don't know if John Belmer, our producer, engineer extraordinaire, likes the fact that I dial up the guests on my end. Do you care one way or another, Belmer? Tell me the truth. Well, yeah. I love dialing them up on my end because we talk before the segment begins, and then it's like, oh, we're out of time. We got to go back on the air. We'll just continue the conversation there. At any rate, good to have you back with us on this Tuesday. The phone number, as always, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page if you got something to say. You can leave it there. We're also on Twitch if you want to watch us. Jason Page 77 is the channel there as well. Big day around the NFL. Trade deadline day, one of the busiest ever. The whole trade deadline period, really one of the busiest ever, if not the busiest ever. Let's bring in our man, Jason Cole. Does a great job. Outkick.com. He's also an Pro Football Hall of Fame selector. He joins us on the show today. All right. I don't want to get into the trades that weren't made. I'll get into that in a second. Of all the deals that were made, the one that impressed you or surprised you the most was?
Well, if we're just talking about the ones today.
Yes, today. We know about Christian McCaffrey obviously being a big deal.
Right. I think the fact that the Denver got a first rounder for Bradley Chubb is surprised me a little. It's not that he got traded; it was that they got a first rounder for him. I'd also give Minnesota a lot of credit for going out and getting Hawkinson, which is a really key piece for them. And in fact, if Irv Smith this allows them to let Irv Smith get healthy while having arguably a better player. I don't know. We could argue about Irv Smith versus Hawkinson overall, but I think that does two things. It allows them to let Irv Smith completely get healthy without having to force him back on the field too soon from that high ankle sprain. And I think the second thing is that once they have the ability to vary their offense with Smith and Hawkinson on the field at the same time, potentially, if you get later in the season. So they actually, I think they just improved their offense by they brought a new variation to what they can do offensively, which will help Cousins a lot.
Is Chubb basically, has he basically been brought in just to make it more difficult, for the Bills and what their quarterback does or what the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes does? I mean, is that essentially why they brought in Bradley Chubb, was to essentially put more pressure on the quarterback, especially those two potentially that they could be facing in the postseason?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all quarterbacks in that conference, but yes, those two are the ones that you circle and go, we're going to have to get through one or both of them if we have any hope of getting to the Super Bowl. So this is this is what the Rams did last year when they went and got Von Miller. Every bit of that move. This is like the younger player who I would say is not as good as Von Miller, but the price is extraordinary, and there's the need for getting guys like this, and a team that right now is believing in the type and believing that if they can keep Tua healthy, they got a shot to get to the playoffs and do something. You gotta get Mahomes and Allen on the ground somehow, some way. In addition to all the other quarterbacks in that conference.
Spending some time with Jason Cole, NFL writer, Outkick.com. Gives us some time here on the Cash In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app on a big NFL trade deadline day. To some of the deals that were not made, I was just talking about it at the top of the hour. You got Brandon Cooks out there, basically flapping his gums about the fact that, well, I'm done being Mr. Nice Guy. I'm done covering for this organization because they didn't trade me. And boo-hoo, I'm only going to make $40 million over the next 2 years for having to be a Houston Texan. What are we to make of what he tweeted out after he wasn't dealt? Is it just sour grapes? Is he really going to spout off? I mean, what happens here?
What reality does he live in that he thinks he's that valuable? Brandon Cooks has been doing this pretty much his entire career. When he complained about being in New Orleans, and he complained about that, every place he's at, he's unhappy. This is not new for him. Now, I get it. You're unhappy in Houston. The team's not very good. It's rebuilding. But I'm tired of hearing the gripes for a guy who, for all intents and purposes, not that great a player. There's a reason why nobody traded for him. He's not all that good. And yes, Houston's paying him way too much money. That's their fault. So part of the reason that nobody's taking him is he's not that good. And his contract is absurdly high. So unless Houston is willing to pay part of that contract, which they have done in the past. I mean, if you remember when they traded Brock Osweiler to Cleveland, they paid part of that deal to get rid of him. But I don't think you get enough in return for him to make it worth paying off his contract. Not at this point in time.
Are you surprised Kareem Hunt wasn't moved?
No, I think Cleveland still believes that it has a shot once they get Deshaun Watson back. Like their belief is, let's get the entire group here and see if we can make a little noise and grab one of those spots. So, they went out and spent all that money on Deshaun Watson, to have this matter. Now, I don't know that he's going to get back. What is it, game 11, the game against Houston?
Yeah.
Which is a pathetic PR move by the NFL. But, he'll be back game 11. And, if they can kind of hold on here, they just, they pick up the win yesterday. They think they get back into it. So I'm not sure I share their optimism, but I understand that's where they're thinking.
Yeah, when I look ahead at their schedule, Deshaun Watson or not, they got a really tough road to haul if they're going to try and grab one of those wild card spots. I want to get your thoughts on Chase Claypool to the Bears, because it says to me, and I plan to talk about this in the next hour, but I'll talk about it with you now. It says to me that they see something in him that they thought it was worth moving assets or moving draft picks, whatever it may be, in order to go get him a receiver, which is something he's needed for a while there. What does it say to you that they went out and made that move?
Well, when I watched Justin Fields play this last weekend, I was actually, and I've seen it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, me too.
I've seen a guy who is making, pretty serious progress on, making some touch throws, into spots on the field that I didn't think he could get to before. I didn't say he couldn't get to them, period. I think there were some throws he couldn't get to before, standard, deeper out stuff that's in front of the safety over the linebacker kind of stuff. He's dropping some balls in. He's also, changing arm angle a lot. I mean, he's probably made 4 throws in the last 2 games where he's, dropped down, hit a really important pass in a key situation that, again, I didn't think he had the ability previously. So this is a guy who's really working hard at his game and could ultimately develop into that passer if they're willing to be patient. Now, this is, I was having a discussion with this assistant coach, earlier today. He said that, we don't develop passers very well from the college game in terms of making them into better throwers right now. We just don't have the ability to do that, to make guys more pocket guys. But I think that's, Fields may be the exception, which, speaks to his work ethic, speaks to what the Bears are doing and how they're thinking through this. And this move was add a guy who's a legitimate second receiver. They've got not great. I'm not saying Claypool is awesome or anything, but he's a good player. And you've got Mooney already. So now you got 2 guys who are legitimate threats, maybe not dangerous threats, but legitimate threats. And you can go a long way with that.
Jason Cole does a great job on the NFL, Outkick.com, joining us here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. How do you feel if you wake up tomorrow morning and you're Aaron Rodgers, you're watching, teams in your division, Vikings, the Bears making upgrades, other teams around the conference making upgrades, and your team stands pat at 3-5 when you have nobody to throw the football to?
Well, are you the realistic Aaron Rodgers, or are you the one who should be taking the blame for some of this yourself for not being there in the off season to work with those receivers? Or are you the sort of, like COVID denier, alternate universe guy who thinks you can just kind of like walk on the field to replace Dante Adams and expect that guys are going to know exactly where they're supposed to be all the time and know how to run back shoulder throws and all that kind of stuff? I mean, yes, this is a shot at Aaron Rodgers. I mean, and trust me, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest throwers of the football in the history of of the planet, right? And I love Aaron Rodgers, but he's made some mistakes here the last couple of years, and particularly this year, that have helped put this team in this situation. I'm not sure how realistically he looks at this and ever takes responsibility for it. I don't know that he ever looks at this and says, you know what, I screwed this up. Some of this is on me. And he should, because a lot of it is on him to lead this team and, get guys on the right page. But he wants to have a world where he gets to be away from football, for the off season and run it his way and get paid what he wants to have and have the power that he has within the organization influence everything. And not think that practice really truly matters. And to a certain extent, look, Tom Brady is dealing with some of this himself too. Now he's been nicer about it in Tampa, and he's dealt with a personal situation that, is awful and, for himself, but missing 10 days of camp and taking, time off and not being on the same page with your guys is showing up with them as well. It's been a problem.
Do you think Gronk, I know there's been this talk about Gronk, you see any scenario where he would come back and try to help out Brady?
People think that this is easy to just walk in after you haven't been working out and doing all this stuff and practicing hard, and that you can just come in and play. I covered Chris Carter the year that he came back in the middle of the season, from being retired and came to Miami. He ended up in the hospital because his body basically created so much lactic acid that his body basically shut. Right, and it was a serious health scare for him. Right, so sure, maybe Gronk can come back if he's going to run 10 plays a game or something like that. But for him to have a really, truly, big impact, I think it's really hard for him to come back. I don't see it. I don't see that he's the cure in any way, shape, or form. They have so many, major issues on their offensive line. In fact, the conversation I was referring to with this assistant coach today, I was laughing at him. I said, yeah, they were making a big deal in the broadcast, the Tampa Baltimore game about how, Brady's getting rid of the ball, like less 2.3 seconds. It's the fastest he's ever gotten rid of it in his life. I'm like, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, so he doesn't get hit.
The reason is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. He's getting rid of it because he didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
To get rid of it, right? Like he's got to get rid of it or he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't think that Gronk fixes that. Yeah. Oh yeah. He's, he's used to doing that play action quick throw to Gronkowski. Yes. It'd help
Sure.
if you could run 2 or 3 of those a game.
Yeah.
You can't live on that. They need to just block better.
Yeah, they do. It's true. Jason Cole, NFL writer, Outkick.com. I'm out of time. We'll do it again soon. Thank you, my friend.
Anytime. Thanks, Jason. Take care.
Let's wrap up the hour next. Thanks again to Jason Cole for stopping by the show. Does a great job. Outkick.com, longtime NFL writer. I just love him. He's such a straight shooter. So many reporters are afraid to say the wrong thing. I don't want to burn a contact or have somebody get mad at me because I criticize him. He just doesn't care. He's just like, whatever. Love that dude. So thanks to Jason Cole for stopping by the show. Next hour of the program, college football playoff releases its first rankings. Woohoo! I'll tell you who's where. And I am going to compliment one NFL team you'd never expect me to compliment. We'll get to that. Justin Termini joined us in the first hour of the show. If you missed it, we'll have that run it back for you coming up about 40 minutes from now. Host over on Sirius XM NBA Radio alongside Eddie Johnson. So we'll see what Justin Termini has to say about the day that Steve Nash got canned as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Well, it was amicable, but he's gone. He gone. We're back with another hour of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Did you just pull an Oscar or Academy Awards and start playing me out? You turn up the music on me? Shit. You did. You did. I could hear it. Like I don't know? You're playing me out. It's like, da, 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 da. Hey, I'm not done yet. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Papa Dukes. What's up, handsome? What's up, Papa? Chong. Final hour of a Tuesday/Wednesday edition of the show. Thank you so much for being a part of it. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app. One 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to. At the back page, again on Twitter. At the back page. Our producer engineer tonight is John Belmer, working in Houston. And I'm Jason, here in beautiful Palm Springs, California. Wish you were here. A lot to do in this hour of the program. Justin Termini hosts afternoons over on SiriusXM NBA Radio. He is our guest this hour, 33 minutes. Oh, 33. Try that again. Yeah, 33 minutes from now. Sometimes my math isn't the greatest. 33 minutes from now, we'll be joined by Justin Termini, get some thoughts with him. A little line movement on our World Series Game 4 for tomorrow night. Just a little bit. The Astros are the favorite tomorrow night by the slightest of margins. But they are the favorite in Game 4 of the World Series after dropping tonight's Game 3 7-0. Astros are minus 106 tomorrow on the money line. The Phillies are minus 110. So basically as close as you're going to get to a pick'em game in a World Series. And look, let's be honest. If the Phillies win tomorrow, this series is over. I know as an Astros fan, you may want to try and deny that. You want to make an argument for your team. That's fine. Knock yourselves out. If the Astros lose on Wednesday night, the series is over. So tomorrow night, huge start for Christian Javier. And look, there aren't a lot of guys that I would want throwing in this spot more than I would want Christian Javier. He's been really good. But we'll see what he does in this spot tomorrow night. I got a question I got to ask about tonight's game. As much as we're rooting for Dusty Baker to win that elusive World Series, I got a question I got to ask about tonight's game. We'll get to that coming up, the college football playoff as well. The first rankings are out. I'm Jason Page. This is The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Now you can turn up the music. We entertain ourselves, if nobody else. It's my philosophy. Can be a bit gratuitous. Staring blindly into space. Coming out. Rolling along in this final hour of the show. I have not done a live betting pick tonight. Have not done it. Phoenix 92, the Timberwolves 87. 7:27 to go, fourth quarter. So Timberwolves making a game of it. I did tell you guys when it was like, I don't know, 212 and a half that I was leaning towards the under in the first quarter of the game. That would have been my pick. If I was just throwing something out there quick. But I didn't give you an official pick tonight on a live bet. We'll see if something pops up here in this fourth quarter that we can throw at you guys. See if we can make you some money in the final hour of the show. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You want to tweet at the show at the back page. You can do it there again on Twitter at the back page. It's funny, I didn't hear from any Cowboy fans if they were disappointed about the fact that Dallas didn't make the move for Brandon Cooks. I know the money is a big issue when it comes to dealing for that kind of guy. $19 million, I think, next year was sort of the big obstacle in terms of being able to get that deal done. But Dallas was definitely in the conversation. I got to be honest, I think Dallas could win with what they have right now. I get that some teams got better around the conference and around the league, but I'm of the mindset that the Cowboys, right now, as currently constructed, could find themselves in the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're beating Buffalo or Kansas City, if you believe one of those two teams is what's coming out of the AFC. I don't know if they can beat one of those two teams, but I'll sure as hell take my chances. If I'm a Cowboys fan and you got an opportunity to get to a Super Bowl with your team as currently constructed, and remember, this team's winning without, getting all that much from Ezekiel Elliott so far. I mean, if they could just get a little more out of him in the running game. We know Tony Pollard is obviously a weapon. And they got a couple of receivers, I'm telling you. Just play I love the style of football they're playing right now. I continue to be all in on the Cowboys. I continue to be all in on San Francisco as it relates to the NFC picture. Again, just get to the Super Bowl. Anything can happen once you get there. But either of those teams coming out of the NFC would not shock me at all. And obviously, you got to take the Eagles seriously with what they've been able to accomplish. All right, some live betting update for you. Phoenix leads Minnesota 96-88. That game in Phoenix tonight, the back end of the TNT doubleheader. Timberwolves right now on the live money line with 6:25 to go in the fourth are plus 600. That is good value. For an NBA game, down 8, league where teams make runs. I don't think I'd go with it, but it's certainly an interesting line. The total right now is 214.5, which basically means you need 30 more points. I would be leaning towards under 214.5. Should we lock it in, Belmer? Should we lock it in as my live betting pick of the night? Let's lock it in. 214.5. Bang that under right now on the live betting line. There it is. 214.5. We're telling you to bang the under. You can get it right now. So that's our live bet of the night. A little late, but we don't mind. Look, as long as you win, who cares when you get it in? Got to get it in. College football playoff has released its first rankings. Yay! How do we decide who goes to our college football playoff? A bunch of people getting into a room and no cameras and nobody knows what they're saying to each other. They could be playing Monopoly for all we know. That's why I can't take college football seriously. I know we're on a bunch of college football audiences, and I know you all probably hate me for it. I don't know why I keep saying y'all, but I am. Tennessee, here, at least they got it right? At least they got it right. Tennessee, the number one spot in the college football playoffs, initial top 25 ranking on Tuesday night. Obviously, this isn't what it's going to be by the time we get to the end of the season, but at least they're there. Number 2 is Ohio State. Number 3 is Georgia. Number 4 is Clemson. And how about this? The 13-member committee has Michigan, undefeated, number 5. One-loss Alabama is number 6, which means Alabama still very much has a chance to get into the college football playoff. And undefeated TCU is number 7. I wonder how they're feeling when one-loss Alabama is in front of them. Alabama, it should be noted, had been ranked in the top 3 of the initial rankings in each of the last 6 years. It's never been lower than number 6 in the committee's first ranking. It had that spot in 2014. But how about Tennessee? Number 1. Which means, let's just say it. It means they control their own destiny. And you can't really ask for much more if you're a college football team at this point in the season. If you are Tennessee, you control your own destiny. And granted, they still have a bunch of landmines sitting on their schedule. Number 3, Georgia, obviously, that's going to dictate, essentially whether or not. Let's just say it. If Tennessee loses to Georgia, are they going to be in? Is there any chance for them to make it into the college football playoff? I don't really think so. I don't know what the argument would be. Win an SEC title game? I don't know. But number 3, Georgia, that is the game everybody's going to be watching this week. I'll tell you what. I'm not even, you guys know me. I'm not a huge college football guy. I'll plant my you-know-what on the couch. Oh, shoot, I can't do it. Belmer, I can't even watch the game on Saturday. I leave for Phoenix on Friday to go bowl in this tournament. I'm going to be bowling on Saturday. I'm not going to be able to watch Georgia and Tennessee. You're going to have to watch it for me. In between my bowls? Did you just disrespect my sport? In between shots? In between balls? No, not rolls. This isn't bocce. The hell is wrong with you? Every bowler listening to the show right now should call in 1-800-224-2004 and give Belmer some hell. Disrespecting bowling. In between bowls? Bowls of what? Cereal? Soup? What is wrong with you? Well, hopefully I fare better than I did in my last tournament. Missed the cut by 27 pins. But that means I'm going to miss Georgia and Tennessee, which I'm not very happy about. So Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, the first 4 of the college football playoff rankings. So it's Georgia, followed by Missouri. You like how I said that? South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. That's the remainder of the regular season schedule for Georgia. keep in mind, though, and see, this is why it drives me nuts. Okay, fine, they're number 1. They've beaten number 17 Pitt, number 20 Florida, number 25 LSU, number 3 Alabama, and number 19 Kentucky. By the way, they dusted Kentucky 44-6. How on earth, if they lose to Georgia this week, on the road in Athens, you should be impressed that I even know where the University of Georgia is, Belmer. Some brownie points or something for that. Getting nothing. Thank you. Something. Thank you. See? I know a little bit about college football. How on earth, if they lose that game, if that's the only game you lose in a season where you beat that many top 25 teams, something's wrong with the system. It just is. I mean, you beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 25 teams. Let's say they lose a close game in Georgia. You're going to knock it. That's it? You have no path back into the college football playoff if you're Tennessee? Again, it's why I just can't take this system that seriously. I can't. Our live betting game of the night, we gave it to you earlier in this hour. Matter of fact, just a few minutes ago. What did we say? Under what? 214.5? Right? We said under 214.5. Right now it's 103.91 Phoenix with 4 minutes to go in the fourth. We're looking good. We're looking really good. You know the Suns are going to grind out clock. I'm telling you, man, I will keep saying this. I was having a conversation today with somebody who shall remain nameless because we're talking about doing a business partnership of sorts, so I can't say who the person is. But we were talking about the fact that there's so much money to be made in live betting. If you're smart and you keep an eye on the lines and you're able to, click the button at the right time, so to speak, live betting is where it's at, man. It's where you're going to make your money. If you're trying to beat the bookies, trying to beat them before the game, that's tough. How about early in the fourth quarter of a game? Much more doable. When you've already had a 3-quarter layout of the game and you know what's going on. We'll keep telling you until we're blue in the face. Live betting, that is where it's at. 800-224-2004 on Twitter at the back page. I'm going to compliment one NFL team here at the trade deadline that you would never expect me to compliment. You'll have to wait and see who it is next on the Cash In. It's SportsMap Radio. The guy That's right. You put in $20, they'll give you $20. Now you got $40 to play with. You put in $100, they're going to give you $100 to play with. It's on your first deposit only. Your first market will also be risk-free. So if you lose that $100 on your first deposit, guess what? You're getting it back. JockMKT.com or the Jock MKT app. Go and download it today. Use my promo code CASHIN. Cash in. CASHIN. Go and get that deposit match bonus. If you're watching us and you're watching the show on our Twitch broadcast, Jason Page 77, we have a QR code that you can click, and it's there. All the information is there. JockMKT.com or the Jock MKT app. I'm afraid we have some bad news, though. Some bad news on our live betting pick for tonight. It is no longer live. It has died. Minnesota and Phoenix, 113-102 with 36 seconds to play in the fourth quarter. 214.5 was the number we were trying to stay under. It's now 114-102, and that means yours truly did not give you a winner tonight. Get to come back for the Showcase Showdown, though. It's Belmer's fault. He talked me into locking it in as the official pick. I'm blaming you, Belmer. I'm going to be like Kyrie Irving. It's everybody else's fault but mine. Absolutely. Just in the aspect of blaming everybody else. All right. So, no live betting winner tonight. We'll try better tomorrow. I hate losing. Hate being wrong. I'm going to compliment one NFL team that if you've listened to the show throughout the entire season, I've banged on them and I've banged on their quarterback pretty hard. I have been one of those guys that said it was time to move on from Justin Fields, that it was time to start thinking about, who you go after in the draft this year if you're Chicago. But I have to admit, and I was talking about this with Jason Cole last hour, and I think he's with me on this, I've had a change of heart. After watching him the last 2 weeks now, I'm convinced Justin Fields can play the position. And it's not that I wasn't convinced he couldn't play the position before. It was the fact that they weren't surrounding him with enough talent to really find out how good he can truly be. And the move today by the Chicago Bears to go and acquire Chase Claypool tells me that's an organization that's dedicated to finding out how good Justin Fields could be. Is Chase Claypool going to tear up the world? No. Nobody's saying that. But he's an upgrade at a position where they need an upgrade in order to find out what this kid can do. So he doesn't have to constantly run for his life and try to make plays with his legs. It gives them an excuse to be able to say, all right, we're getting you receivers, hang in the pocket a little longer, try to make the good throw instead of having happy feet and run around and get 7 yards here and 12 yards there, but getting your brains beat in every week. This is a good move for Chicago. I'm not saying they're going to wind up being better than the Packers or that they're going to miraculously be some kind of wild card team. Nothing in what has taken place throughout this entire season should disillusion us or give us some reason to believe that Chicago is mysteriously, with Chase Claypool now, going to become some sort of threat for the wild card. As I mentioned at the top of the show tonight, you've already got 2 wild card spots, as far as I'm concerned, that are sewn up in the NFC East. So you've got 3 divisions fighting for 1 wild card. And the schedule for Chicago for a 3-5 team isn't one that reads out that they're going to be able to get to 9 wins, which is probably where you're going to need to be a wild card team. I mean, might there be some miracle where an 8-win team winds up with a wild card spot? Maybe. But I mean, I'm looking at the NFC standings right now. I mean, the Commanders are 4-4. San Francisco is 4-4, and then you have a bunch of 3-5 teams. So is it conceivable that one of these 3-5 teams could leapfrog a couple of these 4-4 teams? I guess. And there's a whole bunch of 3-5 teams. But then you're talking about Arizona, the Rams, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Green Bay. What are the odds Chicago is going to be able to leapfrog all those teams and be the next best team after Dallas or the Giants? Again, because I think it's not inconceivable that the NFC East could wind up with all 4 teams in the playoffs. It's not likely, and I've looked at the Commanders' schedule. It's not likely. They still got to play the Giants twice. They still got to play the Cowboys. They still have to play at the 49ers. They still got to play at the Eagles. They still got to play at the Vikings. This Washington, dream, I guess, if you will, if you're a fan of the Commanders. Maybe you think they can get in. When you look at the schedule, it's not realistic. But the fact that we're even halfway through the season and can have a conversation about the fact that the Commanders and every other team in the NFC East could make the playoffs is kind of crazy. And it's emblematic of the insanity in the NFC as far as mediocrity is concerned. I mean, everybody other than Carolina or Detroit is in the hunt for a playoff spot right now. Granted, again, they're all playing for one playoff spot. But Washington, Green Bay, Chicago, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Seattle, San Francisco, the Rams, Arizona could all potentially be wild card team. That last wild card team. It's a wild season. We'll continue to follow it. Tomorrow on the show, one of my favorite things we do, we will have the early lines, the Week 9 early line check-in. We'll give you a sense for where the games are. Maybe some hints at where we're going for Paige's picks on Friday. Oh, we won't be here Friday, so we'll have to either give them on Thursday or just put them online. No Paige's picks this week on Friday. Yeah, in case you missed it, I am off on Friday. Programming, nope. There will be alternate programming in place. No me on Friday. I'll be on the road in Phoenix. Don't worry, though. We'll be back on Monday. Stick around. More to do on the cash-in with Justin Termini of SiriusXM NBA Radio. That's next. It's all on your end, sir. Well, normally I record the video of the segment and then I can play it back on my end, but I didn't do that tonight. It should be self-contained. Yeah. I'm a pro. That's what we do. Say no amateur hour. So I'll talk to you in about 20. All right. If you need me for any reason, text me. For the podcast, I'm thinking first segment of the show and the two interviews. Yeah, makes sense?
season. It's just Kyrie going to come back? Is he going to opt out? Is he going to go to the Lakers? You got the crap with Kevin Durant. He wants to be traded. He wants Nash and Sean Marks fired. We start the season. It's the anti-Semitic comments from Kyrie Irving. Then we wake up today and we can finally put that stuff in our, in our rearview mirror, you would hope. And then we wake up to the news that Steve Nash is out. So it's like one thing after another. And then this organization is so incompetent that not only they're going to prolong the story, right? They're going to prolong the controversy by apparently going out and hiring Ime Udoka. That's not like a hire that you can just kind of like, oh, we've hired this guy, it's time to move on. There's going to be a new set of questions because of what took place with him in Boston. So it's just sickening that the basketball world's trying to start the season off here, and it's got to be clouded by this organization in Brooklyn.
At this point, is Kevin Durant out of excuses now? I mean, is that sort of the position we take as people covering the game? Is that, look, this is what you wanted. You clearly didn't think that Steve Nash was the answer in terms of head coach. So now you're kind of out of excuses. Or can he say, well, Sean Marks has to go too?
No, well, 100%, because think about the guys that have been, and this is what he is. Like, he is a coach killer. That's now on his ledger, and it should have been after Kenny Atkinson was gone.
Well, Kyrie's too, though. I mean, Kyrie's had six coaches in 7 years, too.
Exactly. No, they both are, but the difference is, like, Kyrie's irrelevant 50 years from now, right? Like, maybe he'll be on some YouTube videos because he dribbles fancy, but, like, Durant's an all-time great. He's the guy that you're supposed to be mentioning in the, along the lines, if I don't want to say like as high as Magic, Bird, Jordan, LeBron, etc., but he's in that next group, like the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Kobe Bryants. Like, he's supposed to be that good. His name lives on forever. And if, like, for example, if we're going to call Magic a coach killer for what he did with Paul Westhead, well, guess what? Then he gets Pat Riley and Magic wins a championship. If you want to call Shaq a coach killer because he got rid of Stan Van Gundy, how does he respond to that? All right, he goes out and he wins an NBA championship. So LeBron, he kills David Blatt. All right, what does he respond with? An NBA championship. Those guys got their way. We didn't like the fact they got their coaches fired, but they at least responded. Now it's Durant's turn. Okay, you got your way, KD. Now respond.
Spending some time with Justin Termini, host over on Sirius XM NBA Radio, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Who are you hosting with? Is that Eddie Johnson?
Eddie Johnson, yes, the former Sun and the Kansas City King and the Seattle Supersonic and the Houston Rockets. Yeah, that's Eddie Johnson.
He was a sixth man of the year a bunch of times, wasn't he? He was like one of those. Yeah, he was one of the best sixth men, though. I mean, he was a great guy off the bench. Eddie Johnson was. Justin, I mean, take it to Kyrie though here for a second, and let's just assume it's Ime Udoka who comes in and is the next head coach of this team is expected in the coming hours. Kyrie doesn't play defense, and I don't know how that's going to fly with Ime Udoka, who one of the first things he's got to do is come in here and help this team defensively. Is it just a matter of time before Kyrie winds up somewhere else, or can they make this work?
Well, I think eventually at the end of the season, they're going to want him out just based off all the behavior issues. I don't think that organization is going to want to have anything to do with him. And I'm hard-pressed to find where maybe he does end up. Maybe it is the Los Angeles Lakers. I know there was flirtations with him before. But like Ime Udoka goes in and everybody's like, well, he fixed the defense in Boston. Think of the personnel you had on that team, though. Like, you had Robert Williams there. You had Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford. All those guys are great defenders. You don't have that in Brooklyn. None of these guys are great defenders outside Ben Simmons, and he's got to fix his head, his back, and his knee first before he can focus on, like, getting his actual act together on the floor. Kyrie's a non-defender, and they also don't have size. Like, you go through the Eastern Conference, you've got Giannis and Brook Lopez who are in Milwaukee, you've got Joel Embiid in Philadelphia, not to mention, Robert Williams, he comes back and the success they had last year, Bam Adebayo. Like, you get to the finals, it's DeAndre Ayton, it's Nikola Jokic, it's Anthony Davis, even though the Lakers aren't going to get there. But the point is like, you need size in the league today. They got Nick Claxton and Day'Ron Sharpe. That's not Steve Nash's fault. That's the front office's fault for not shoring up positions like that. So whether you have Udoka, Steve Nash, Red Auerbach, or Phil Jackson as your head coach, it's not going to rectify that.
You wonder if, and this is just a philosophical question, I guess, but you wonder if an experience like this for Steve Nash, his first head coaching job, You wonder if something like this sort of jades him on the idea of even wanting to coach again, having gone through an experience like this, that this is what coaching in the modern day NBA is. If he'd even want to coach again after something like this.
Yeah, I brought that up for a segment today in regards to, like, first of all, he's got to be, like, you can't tell me that he's not smiling today, that he's removed from this situation. He doesn't need this. Like, there's been coaches that you know, even Udoka needs it to, I guess, make his living. He played in the NBA, wasn't making the type of money that Steve Nash did, but there's certain guys that don't need it. Steve Nash doesn't need to be bossed around by guys that he's more talented than. Right. So I can't imagine that, you know, and again, you have to understand that this is not every organization. Look at what Will Hardy's doing out in Utah right now. Like, it seems like he's got a great group of guys that are playing for each other, playing team basketball, great chemistry, listening to whatever he's saying. So there are organizations where you do have that. And hopefully Steve Nash realizes that if he wants to get back into coaching. But yeah, I mean, if he thinks that every organization around the sport is like what he's dealing with in Brooklyn, I can't see any way that he would ever want to coach again.
Justin Termini, host over on SiriusXM NBA Radio, joining us here on the Cash-In SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. I got to ask you, is it surprising to you, Joe Tsai and the Nets put out a statement. It took a while, but the NBA put out a statement today. Are you surprised more players around the league haven't spoken out on the Kyrie Irving situation?
No, and I talked about that as well today. They're hypocrites. I mean, if it's a fan that says something and, like, you know, Russell Westbrook, a fan in Utah says something, they'll pounce on him. And then every player around the league will do the same. If it's Robert Sarver, if it's Donald Sterling, if it's a member of the general public, you know, LeBron's going to Elon Musk the other day about people's language on Twitter. So they'll attack you. They'll attack the fan base, the common person. But if it's somebody within the NBA, if it's one of their brethren, they're basically allowed to do whatever they want.
That's surprising to me. I'm surprised that, you know, and I know the idea that he may wind up in the Lakers with LeBron maybe is keeping his response a bit more tepid, but I'm surprised that some of the leadership guys in this league, the faces of this league, who are watching Kyrie Irving sully that reputation of the league as being a more progressive league, a league that, you know, has tended to go more in the direction of trying to be more outspoken on social issues. I get it. There's not a ton of white Jewish guys, you know, playing the point guard position in the league, but it's kind of surprising to me that more guys haven't spoken up on this. Yeah,
I mean, if it doesn't serve you, then you're not gonna speak up on it, I guess, right? If you risk to lose something, maybe a friendship with a Kyrie, a relationship, if it's money via shoes, we know that there's different, you know, people that they're taking money from in that regard that might have connections that are a little bit, murky. Then guys aren't going to say anything. So I'm not shocked by it. I'm disappointed, but I'm not shocked at all.
What's through the first couple of weeks of the season? I try not to go too crazy about and overreact to anything I see. What do you think is more likely to be fixed first, if it could be fixed this season? Is it the Lakers or the Nets?
I think it's the Nets, just because you got the Russell Westbrook issue that's got to be rectified in LA, which is a problem, even though it looks a little bit better with him off the bench the last couple of days. And then, like, I probably have less confidence in the health of Anthony Davis than I do of anybody in Brooklyn, even though Kyrie Irving misses a ton of games. And Ben Simmons is already missing a couple of games here with the knee. But I think the combination of, like, probably the age, the health, and Russell Westbrook, like, at least Kyrie, even though he was horrible tonight, at least, like, he still is in his prime and still can, play at a high level. Same thing with Durant when they're focused, at least. I'm not sure even a focused Russell Westbrook can still play at a high level and play winning basketball.
With Utah and San Antonio off to fast starts when most people thought they'd be lottery teams, going into the off season. I mean, man, even Greg Popovich at one point said, "Hey, we're not winning much this year." Which to you, based on what you've seen through the first 7 or 8 games, has the potential to have some staying power and actually be good?
Well, I think it's got to be Utah, just because they actually have the talent, right? And what Popovich done is amazing. And Utah shouldn't be 6-2, but they've also beat some good opponents, which is a good sign. Lauri Markkanen looks like he's for real. You've got Mike Conley, who's like a really good player, even though he's a little bit past his prime. Jordan Clarkson is a good player. So I think they actually have like legitimate NBA talent on their team. I think that there's a lot of guys on San Antonio outside of maybe Keldon Johnson who really aren't like NBA quality players, or at least, anywhere close to starters. So there's far more talent in Utah.
Reason to be concerned with the Clippers with the slow start, or is it, them just sort of trying to ease some guys in?
No, there's reason to be concerned. Now, I picked them to go to the NBA Finals just because of the amount of talent. But if they're not going to play together and get the continuity, then they won't have a chance come playoff time. And it was the same thing I said the last couple of years about Brooklyn. If you're not going to take the regular season seriously, then you're not going to be able to succeed in the postseason. And you probably should be worried about Kawhi. I mean, he's about to miss 6 consecutive games by the time the stretch is over. And I think it's going to be like 7 out of 9 games that he's going to miss after having a year and a half off. So if he's not able to play right now, what makes you think he's going to be able to play like 40 minutes a night in the postseason when they really need him in some hotly tested games against the Nuggets or the Suns or the Warriors? So, yeah, there's definite reason to be concerned.
Warriors are playing no defense right now. Reason to worry?
I mean, it's not great, but I also think that there's a lot of young guys on the roster that they're giving minutes to, and it'll come around. I think maybe the bigger concern is that Klay Thompson. I thought he would look better this year after getting his legs underneath him. He does not look good, and they're going to need that second guy for Steph, because I felt last year they got away with it a little bit in that, his second star was probably Andrew Wiggins. If you go throughout NBA history, no offense to Wiggins, but he doesn't necessarily align with, I would say, 95% of the second best players that have won NBA championships. And now people are healthy out west, right? In the Denver Nuggets, the Pelicans with Zion back, the Clippers supposedly, if Kawhi can ever find his groove. So that's what I would be concerned about is that, everybody in the West kind of got better and maybe they didn't.
Now that I know we both live on the West Coast, I don't know if that's good news for you, the fact that you live that close to me. We're going to have to plan a doggy date, okay? Doggy date, something like that.
Is it still the same? I'm trying to think of the name while I'm talking. A little bulldog.
No, the bulldog died years ago, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
But that's okay. But I have a puggle now, and his name is Dookie, and
Dookie, okay.
He literally is my companion everywhere I go. So the next time I see you, hopefully out in L.A., you'll get to meet the Dukester.
Nice. Well, I've got Zuzu here, and she's the Australian Labradoodle, and I'm throwing the ball to her right now as we speak. So,
listen, Justin, it was good to catch up, my friend. Let's do it again soon.
All right, Paige. Sounds good, buddy. Thanks for giving me the ring.
Absolutely. Justin Termini, Sirius XM NBA Radio. We'll wrap up the hour next. Of course. Getting set to put the wraps on this baby. What do we got tomorrow night? Odds move at all? Still minus 106 Houston on the money line with Christian Javier going up against Aaron Nola. The Phillies try to take a 3-1 series lead. Put the Astros on the brink. See what happens in that series tomorrow night when they resume it. Game 4 in Philadelphia. Good win for the Phillies tonight. 7-0. It was never in doubt. Bryce Harper, a first inning 2-run blast. Phillies never looked back. What? We're out of time already? It's poor clock. That is Herm Edwards-like clock management on my part. By the way, speaking of Herm Edwards, he's rejoining ESPN. Soft landing, party of one. Good job, John Belmer. We'll do it again tomorrow night. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for listening to the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Bye! You live for that, I know. All right, you got the podcast notes. It's you and me tomorrow night. No, I didn't send you notes. Yeah, I figure you did a good job. You know what you're doing. It's me and you tomorrow night. All right. I look forward to it. Cool. All right, brother. Have a good night. Get home safe. Bye-bye. See, you're on autopilot. You're just automatically, you too. If I said love you, would you have been like, you too? Yeah. I'll see you later. Later. All right, we're all done. I don't know why I'm so tired tonight. Everybody have a great night. We'll catch you back here on Wednesday. We'll do our look ahead at the Week 9 NFL lines. I don't know, maybe we'll have Lucas Giolito on the show. I got to reach out to him, see if we'll get him on the show tomorrow or Thursday. At any rate, have yourselves a great night. I'll see you all on Wednesday. Bye.